One of the favorite things that I ever had the opportunity to do was to start a new church. I would also say in the same sentence that it was probably the most challenging thing that my family and I ever did as well. See, when it comes to leading anything, you're always going to face challenges and opposition. The challenges of church planting are in some ways very unique. I want to take a moment and just talk to you about what I've kind of pinpointed 9 challenges that any church planter faces in their first year of church planting. The first challenge is what I would dub the turnover factor. You're going to find yourself just having questions. Why are people leaving? I've found that there are 4 reasons why people leave the church. First of all, it's just unmet expectations. Things aren't going the way that they thought they'd go. Maybe they had a certain expectations that this program would be offered or this would be the way that worship is, and it just didn't meet expectations. The second is sometimes it's just physical fatigue. Volunteers are burned out. They've been stretched further than they thought they would ever be stretched in this project of starting a new church. Also, some people aren't called to be there long term. God might actually be developing them, believe it or not, for another church. And the last reason why sometimes people leave is I kind of dub it the crazy motives. They come to the church having crazy motives that cause them to leave because things just aren't their way. The truth is you need to be careful of ever needing people to stay. The second challenge is the challenge of leadership development. This is such an easy thing to put on the back shelf because there are a lot of things that just need to get done. But it's critical to create a system to constantly pick up those that develop being DNA carriers in the church. In other words, they're the ones that carry the culture forward. They're totally bought in. They breathe. They birth pieces of what the church is all about. See, some of your best leaders in the future probably aren't even involved yet. Staff development can fall into this area as well. The third challenge you're going to face in the first year is also the challenge of spiritual warfare. Our battle isn't against flesh and blood, but it's against the principalities of darkness. See, planting a church, you really are stepping onto the front lines of the battle. Therefore, you cannot underestimate it. But don't fear, for He has overcome the world. And He who is in us is greater than the one that is in the world. The fourth challenge you're going to face in the first year is the money crunch challenge. You're going to feel it personally. You're going to feel it corporately. The reality is you will never have enough of it. But that's just it's par for the course. The fifth challenge is the challenge of personal development. And I would characterize this in several different areas. First of all, physical development, emotional development, spiritual development. You got to pay attention to all 3 of those areas in your life, or else you kind of move towards the route of burnout. But you also need to pay attention to the time that you have with your family. Find people who are going to fill your cup, people that are going to pray with you. You need people in your life that are safe, that you can just be who you are, know that they're going to love you no matter what. The sixth challenge you're going to face is time budgeting. See, like money, you never actually have enough time. Sometimes you may feel like you have too much time. People are going to ask for your time as though it has no value. You'll give of your time as though it has no value. The biggest thing I can encourage you to do is focus your time. Ephesians 5:15 says, "Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise but as wise, making the best use of this time, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is." See, we're to be wise with the time that God has allotted us to make the most of those things. Seventh challenge you're going to face is the launch team transition. It's moving from us to all of us. See, there's an excitement, there's an energy, there's unity that's created among the team when they're trying to figure out how we can get this church started and moving the church towards the grand opening. But after the grand opening, you're now a church. And so it changes the unity factor, and you have to begin to think differently of how do we move, and so we move from us to all of us. Here's a couple things to think about. Celebrate. Share the vision. Quickly begin to integrate new people into the ministry in very specific areas of service. But at the same time, you need to be slow at laying on hands on new leadership. Remember, leaders are recognized, they're not appointed. The eighth challenge is the challenge of culture, and it's really the culture creation piece. When it comes to creating your culture, you got to be intentional when it comes to each aspect of your church and the culture that's seen in it. How do you create culture? Communicate it clearly. Communicate it systematically. See, healthy systems and processes actually help foster church growth. What small thing can you do? What small thing can you tweak in order to maybe experience great breakthrough? Systems won't cause the church to grow. Simply give God opportunity. The ninth challenge is the challenge of mission drift. I've heard it said over and over and over again that vision is something that it just leaks. See, it's easy to get caught into the routine of being a church. And as a result, we lose focus on really why do we exist? What are we set out to accomplish? What is our mission? And so we have to remind ourselves, and you'll have to remind yourself and even your team, why did we do this? Why are we planning a church? I hope for you, the reason that you see why you planted a church is simply because it's the most effective way to reach people for Jesus Christ.